Hello and welcome to a live Kerfefe break on Deprogram with Keri Smith. Welcome back. If you are a regular viewer, I see some of you guys in the chat. I see Adam. Hello, Adam says I could do with some cheering up. Well, we're going to try to do that today. So this is probably, I think this is the last show I'll air before Thanksgiving. Maybe not. There might be an interview, but just in case it's the last one and it's Thanksgiving week, we're gonna do some things that we're grateful for today. So I know it's cheesy, but it'll be good. It'll cheer people up. Neuroscientists say that the more you think about what you're grateful for, that actually it elevates your mood. So it's science. Trust the science. Trust Fauci. I'm kidding about the last part. If you're new here, this is a live show that we do Mondays and Fridays on the program. Just hang out with the chat, and I have different co-hosts for every episode. My co-host today is a man who I'm grateful I got to interview recently and meet recently. His name is Matt Antar. He has a new YouTube channel that he's rebooted, and it's linked below. He's from New York, and we did a whole interview. He's someone who, like me, was on the left for many years and started to wake up. His waking up point was a little different than mine, and I'll let him tell you about that before we get into the show today. Please welcome Matt.
Hi.
Hi. I'm so happy you're joining me for the live.
I know. Oh my God, it's gonna be so fun. I can't wait.
So and I told you beforehand, you are my co-host today. So feel free to take charge at any point.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, today the show is going to be about. No, I'm kidding.
You could just go like, we're doing this. So why don't you tell people, though, if they haven't seen your interview, just a brief synopsis of what we talked about, like who you are, what it is that you do on your channel.
Oh my God, yeah. So we were just talking before we went on about like how I kind of went through it between 2020 and like I probably like late 2021 because COVID COVID was not anything except, a viral illness, but the response to COVID was something that I was in vehement disagreement with. Pretty much, I wouldn't say from the very beginning, but I would say from about 2 months in, that disagreement. I have a problem keeping my mouth shut. I don't do that very well. I've never done that very well in life. Even when I was on the left, I was screaming about whatever I believed in the day. But I've never really been good at keeping my mouth shut. I came out of the closet when I was 13 years old. So if that's any indication, like I don't really hide who I am and what I think about things. But anyway, so I didn't do all the social media back then that I do now, but I did do Facebook like everybody else, family, friends. And I started posting on Facebook about how the COVID response was a whole lot of BS and how they were manipulating us and locking us down and all that stuff. And I told the whole story on your show, but basically
you were in New York where it was very draconian.
It was so draconian. And it was like at a certain point, I mean, again, it's like I went along with it in the beginning because I was like, I don't know, is this a really bad disease? Maybe unprecedented times call for unprecedented measures. Nobody knew what was going on. But very quickly I was like, no, like guys, like, government executives don't have the right to just shut people down, shut their businesses down, lock them in their house for an indefinite period of time until further notice. That was like, it was just like, that's not. So I started running my mouth about it on Facebook, and all of my friends at the time were just like hardcore lefty, like AOC loving, like, just like Green New Deal and blah, blah, blah. And unfortunately, that kind of went into the lock yourself down COVID mentality. So, of course, I basically lost almost every friend I had at the time. And that was...
I'll just plug for you guys who want to hear the full story. Definitely check out the interview I got to do with Matt, because it's it's one of my favorites. Like, I never know where these things are going to go, but just it was almost like when I talk to other people who've woken up and gone through that whole process where you do lose a lot of your social circle, sometimes jobs, things like that, sometimes family. And I think I told you it was cathartic, because it maybe an analogy would be, being at AA and talking to a fellow drunk who's gone through some of the same stuff, or being maybe a war veteran talking to a fellow war veteran who's been through the same stuff. It was just that kind of, or people who've left a cult. It's like, yes, I know what you're talking about. So
Yeah.
I really love that. And you guys should go check out the full interview.
Well, Keri, when I first became aware of you, it was through you telling your story of leaving the whole social justice cult. And I mean, we didn't know each other personally at the time, but I saw a video of you, and it was cathartic for me at the time, because I had literally, it was like I had freshly basically like lost all my friends, and
Yeah.
like all of that. I was just like, oh, there are people out there. Like, I like grabbed onto it, and I was like, this is exactly in a different way, but this is exactly what I went through, for different reasons. But I was like, so we both had cathartic moments on this. Yeah.
Yeah, I had that moment as well with, I think it was some of Dave Rubin's videos. He had a video called, leaving why the left left me, or something like that. And that video really I stuck with me, because it was one of those times, and there were a few times where you find something, you find someone, you're like, it's not just me. Like, I'm not just going crazy, because when you're leaving an echo chamber like that, which is very cult like, if you're a normal person and not just, I don't say, disordered in some way, you will have that natural introspection sort of thing where you're questioning yourself, like, is it me? Like, am I crazy? Why am I starting to see things differently than the people around, than my little echo chamber,
Yeah.
And because you're you're so locked into that world, that I think it's just natural to, you should be questioning, is it me? But when you find those other people, you're like, okay, I'm not the only one who sees this.
I had an interesting
Yeah.
dichotomy, because it was like, of course, I'm sitting there going, is it me? Is it me? But on the other hand, it was like, as soon as I started running my mouth on Facebook, I knew what the reaction was going to be. It's not like I didn't know what oh yeah, definitely plug the interview. Yeah, that was it's not like I didn't know what the reaction was going to be. It's like I was seeing everybody I knew at the time, what they were posting about hashtag stay home, save lives. It wasn't a secret to me that my opinions weren't going to be popular. But unfortunately, I have an issue just going along to get along, and I always did. I had actually experienced something similar-ish on a smaller scale. When I was supporting Bernie Sanders in 2016, there were some hardcore Hillary Clinton people. But again, it was a smaller scale, because like supporting Bernie Sanders was like, it was bad, but it wasn't as bad as Donald Trump. So It was like people were like still trying to like, convince me why we needed to go with Hillary or whatever. But, I was running my mouth at the time about supporting Bernie Sanders, and I was getting like hate light for it.
I had some of the same, because I was a Bernie supporter. We were very similar in many ways. I voted for Bernie in 2016, and you're right. They did a good job of the elite, the establishment part of the left, the woke part of the left, of really attacking and trying to isolate Bernie voters.
Yeah. So what came to me was like, it was like I had like a preview in 2016, and then I had the whole thing in 2020, because it basically, what I was saying basically meant I was a Trump supporter or whatever, even though like I wasn't really, even in 2020. I mean, looking back on it, I'm like, it would have been better if he had been elected, but or if we can trust whatever. Anyway, that's another story.
You weren't there yet, but I had been, because my waking up happened a couple years before yours, just a couple years. So by the time he ran in 2020, I was there. I was like, okay, I'm voting for this guy. I'm
Yeah.
because he, at the end of the day, he was the most liberal candidate running, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The most,
Yeah.
like, anti-interventionist,
Yeah.
anti, like, having spending taxpayer dollars on racist woke indoctrination in government labs, and there were a number of reasons why I looked at him and I looked at Biden and was like, Biden is, you know, I mean, it's no surprise to you now, but Biden is an authoritarian. That's what's happened to a lot of the Democrats now, is they're no longer liberals. So,
Right.
and now,
Actually, I think, I think Biden in his current iteration in his presidency is not so much an authoritarian as someone who's like not even really all there and is just kind of having
no,
the strings pulled.
oh, I agree, but I mean, like, whoever's puppeting him. I used to say,
Yes, yes, I agree.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Whoever's puppeting him, that's the policies he's going to support, and that's the policies he has supported. Is,
yeah,
anti-Second Amendment. He wants to take the guns, a gun grabber, like an authoritarian.
yep,
Against free speech, like those kind of things
yep,
that are very illiberal. And I
yeah.
can't. I'm like, and I know some people are like, give up the word liberal. Just say you're conservative. And I'm like, but the word liberal means something. Like, we just we're just gonna let
Yeah,
people use it to say, like, things that are completely illiberal, and call it liberal. I'm not down with that. It means something.
I know, and I'm so guilty of it too, of being like, these days I'll be like, and he's such a liberal, and I'll like roll my eyes, and then I'll be like, but like the classical liberal, like
Yeah,
I still like, yeah, I know that I have gotten more conservative in
yeah,
certain areas of my
me
life
too.
for sure. I'm not going to deny that, but I'm not like a traditional conservative of the 1990s. Like I'm not that.
Yeah,
So like, I would say I'm politically homeless, but I'm not. The Republican Party is aligned with my values.
yeah,
Like, even
yeah.
though they have issues, but they are more so aligned with my values than the Democrats.
Currently, they are more so aligned with my values as well, and I think that's just because they're getting pulled as everything shifts. The Overton window, the window of what is allowable speech and culturally acceptable speech in any given moment. That window has shifted so far towards the extreme authoritarian woke left that it's like
Mhm.
pulled everything. It's pulled even the Republican Party is now like in the middle. They're like the liberal party. I'm like, that's
I know.
crazy, but they are.
I
And
know.
it doesn't mean it won't shift back at some point, but right now the Republicans are the most liberal party, and so that's who I've been voting for. If that changes,
Yeah.
I'll, you know,
Yeah,
uh,
I've always been saying these last 2 years, like I re-registered. I registered as a Republican now. Not that that makes much difference in New York, but but I re-registered. But people, like, I'll always tell people, like, I didn't leave one cult to join another. Like, if the
right.
Republicans go batshit crazy, like, and the Democrats become more aligned in my values in 10, 15, 20 years, I'll switch again. Like, all I want are my values represented.
Yeah.
I have no loyalty to any political party. Right now it's the Republicans. Hopefully for the rest of my life it'll be Republicans, because I'm kind of liking being a Republican. I got my red shirt on today, and uh,
It's edgy now. It's like, this is the way kids rebel now, is because
you
whenever
know,
the cultural norm is to be woke, and so it's like the most edgy thing you can do is to be a young, like, Republican who believes in monogamy, and who is for fiscal responsibility, and is questions authority, and that's like that's punk rock now, all of that.
I know. Oh my God, please, to be a young Republican who believes in monogamy, that just basically killed my dating life. It's just so that's
Yeah.
awesome. Um,
I could talk about that for when I get on social subjects now. That's where I've become more. That's where, like you said, you've become more conservative in some ways. I have become more conservative in some ways in the past couple of years. It's more on it's like on the personal level of like what it's not about laws or policies. It's about behavior and how I think some of the conclusions I've now drawn about how to best behave in the world. Like, for me, and what I think would be better for other people, but I'm not trying to force them to agree with me. Like,
right.
so that's where it's like, yeah, I've definitely become more personally conservative for sure.
So you're conservative but not authoritarian about it.
Right. Like
Like,
I
yeah,
don't believe in the government saying you know, like I think porn is destructive, but I think it should be legal. It's
right.
consenting adults, like whatever. And I
I
think
think
yeah,
I was just to piggyback on that. I think marijuana is destructive, but I think it should be legal.
exactly. Any
Yeah,
vices, these kind of things, it's like it's not the government's you don't give the government power over people to try and force behavior as long as the behavior is not, you know, it's that libertarian idea of like, don't hit people and don't take their stuff.
right,
As long as you're not like harming someone else
right,
or
right.
taking their stuff, um, then yeah, I think it's up to people. And I think because I'm a Christian now, I think that's actually in line with, I do believe that's in line with my faith because faith is not an authoritarian thing. Christianity is not like, you know, Jesus isn't saying you must believe in me. It's free will. It's all about free will. It's all about you choosing, you
Right.
know. I believe God gave us free will, and it's like, so why would I think that the government needs to come in and say, live this way? You know, that's no.
Well,
People have
besides the
to
fact
choose.
that if you know, doesn't you know, if you're a person of faith, doesn't it mean more if you make the choice than if you're forced
Exactly.
into something? Yeah,
Exactly.
like that's what's going to be. If you just do quote unquote the right thing because you feel like you're forced to do it but you don't want to do it, is that really going to be like the best thing for your soul? No, it's
No.
going to be if you make a conscious choice to live a certain way, to
Yes.
live by your values. That's what really matters, is
You have
making the
to
conscious choice to do it.
Yes, you have to choose your path. Like you can't be it's almost like the woke, the authoritarian left, they like to do forced apologies where they make
Right.
people apologize and I've never even when I was in the woke left, I didn't understand that because I always thought it's not an apology doesn't mean anything if you're demanding it. You know,
Right.
just in your individual life, we all know that. If we all know that. You don't go to your you don't say, I'm not going to Thanksgiving at your house until you give me that apology that you owe me." And then if they give you the apology, what's that worth? You just
Yeah.
forced them to do it. Like it doesn't mean anything.
Right.
So,
Right. Right. Yeah. Like I feel like I am owed an apology for segregation in New York,
yeah.
for everything. And I've said that on my
Yeah.
Twitter post. Like, you know, an apology would be a good start.
It would
You know what
be.
I mean? However, I'm not going to reach out to a former friend who disowned me and say, "Hey, we can be friends again if you apologize." No,
Yeah.
that needs to come from you. That needs to come
Exactly.
from you. And
Exactly.
you know what? The if it's a if it is a if I were to be approached freely without any coercion on my end, without me reaching out by someone who I used to know who didn't like what I was saying, whatever, and they looked me in the eye and it was like it was a genuine like, Matt, I screwed up, man. Like
Yeah.
I really, and I was scared and I didn't know what to do. And I made some bad choices of like how I treated you and not anybody who was, you know, I would I would look back at them and I would be like, okay, we can start from there. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? That's a place where we can start being like, all right, let's talk, you know?
Yeah. And I've had the experience in the past year. I've had 4 or 5 people now, strangers to me, who, um, used to attack me online and stuff because of this one psycho, that they were following, and I didn't know who they were. Anyway, I've had the experience now of, like, 5 different people reach out to me, with an apology, and that's amazing. How often
Yeah.
do you get one of those? And I've had something similar happen with some of the people in my old woke life. Now, some of those people are too afraid to say anything publicly, but they've reached out and at least said, you know, "I am sorry for listening to what people were saying, and I'm sorry for" because I understand it because I used to be in it. Like, I
Right.
used to believe, that, you know, Ben Shapiro was a sexist or, what's his name? Louder Crowder, like things like that. When you're in that world, you just kind of take these received opinions and you don't really look. But if you ever start looking closer, then yeah, I had to apologize to people. I apologized to Megan Murphy. She was someone that which by the way, she's back on Twitter. We're going to talk about this in a second. That Twitter is reanimating all these banished heroes. We're going to talk about that. But Megan Murphy, who is a radical feminist, and in my feminist circles, when I was woke, I watched them tear her down publicly, come after her. The whole woke part of feminism came after the radical part of feminism. And anybody who wasn't in the feminist world may not know the difference. The radical feminists, they get called TERFs a lot. The trans exclusionary radical feminist is what that means. And they get called transphobic and stuff. And so she was one of the most high profile, well-known feminists who was saying you can't actually change your sex. I mean, that's all. And she opposes men and trans women or men in women's spaces. And so she got completely mobbed and canceled. And I ended up apologizing to her a couple years later because I was in that world and I was a coward and I
Mm,
saw it happen. I didn't do anything. I didn't say anything
mm.
because I was too afraid. So anyway, this is kind of ramble, but the best apologies are ones that people that either like you are sincerely motivated to give or someone
Hmm.
else is sincerely motivated to give to you. And that's like gold. That's just,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Okay. Let's we're gonna get into some of this Twitter stuff. I just want to put up a couple comments. Hey, Adam, he says my Christmas card list shrank. The trash took itself out, as Josh's friend George would say. He's talking about losing friends.
Yeah,
Front Porch
it's sad.
Conservative is here. He says, hit the like button. Thank you. I need you to
Yes.
help remind people. Hit the like button if you like the show. And this is very encouraging, but also kind of sad. I've had this happen a lot of times. Jules in the chat says, I met someone in real life for the first time last week who thinks like me. She was being so careful when she was telling me about how her friends had cut her off to say why. And then I was like, it's okay, me too.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had that experience. I've had that experience in work situations. I've had that experience. I had one experience where a colleague of mine is Australian, and this was when Australia was really going, crazy with the lockups and everything. And we were sitting at lunch, and it happened to just be the two of us in the room. Like, I guess everybody else had gone somewhere else. And she was saying to me how, like, oh yeah, my dad's in Australia, and I'm at work. I don't want to start an argument. I just figure everybody's woke. So I was just like, oh, how does he like it? And she was like, well, like, she kind of looked at me, and she looked at the floor, and then she like looked at me again, and she was like, I mean, and she finally just said, I mean, I don't know if you know what's happening over there. And then I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Like, we're both kind of like dancing around
Yes.
it. And she's like, well, he had to fly out of the country for something, and then he flew back in, and they basically locked him in a hotel and didn't give him the key. And I was like, okay, she is talking about that. And I was like, and then so we just started, and it ended up, she was talking about another job that she works. She was talking about how when the vaccine mandates came into New York, how they had armed guards escort the unvaccinated people out, and she was talking about it in a negative connotation. That's where the conversation got to.
Yeah.
But it was starting out like, oh, do you know what's happening in Australia? Well, what do you mean what's happening in Australia? Be more specific. Well, because it's like, and even me, as loud as I am, I was like, I don't want to do this at work. You know what I mean? Just in case, like, that's all I need is for them to go around, and he's a crazy Trumper, and then people look at me weird and like, don't hire me for jobs in the future. And like, I was like, so even then, as much as I run my mouth, I was being careful too, because I was like, it's a professional situation, and I don't want to go here unless there's something that like we can actually discuss.
Yeah. It's a bit like I've made this comparison before. I know others have. It's a bit like probably in the 50s when gay men would probably dance around the subject of whether or not they were gay, you'd have to kind of try to figure it out from context clues
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
social setting or at work or whatever, because you're like, I don't know, is he? I'm like, you like, how much info do you give? And I'm sure everybody listening out in the real world, you've had these situations, because we live in a time where it's, you think there are consequences. You could be fired, you could lose friends, there are consequences to being a wrong thinker. And so when you're in these, like, at a cocktail party or what have you, and you're like, what, like you just said, what do you mean what was happening in Australia?
Yeah, like I was like cautiously optimistic, but like, by the way, I was gonna say I mean, it's 2020 whatever now. I think it was 2018, but I totally had that experience on the train where this like hot iron worker guy was like really, really interested in talking to me. And he was like, oh, I love your shirt. My shirt said Asbury Park on it. And he was like, oh, I'm from Belmar. So like at first I'm like, oh, he wants to make small talk about, about Jersey Shore towns. And we're talking, but then he like didn't want to stop talking to me. And then he was like, oh, like, tell me about you. Tell me about your life. And I was just like, is this happening on the subway? And I can't tell. And anyway, so that was
You still
funny.
had one of those moments.
I still had one of those moments where I was like, I don't want to just like come out and like hit on you, because like if you're just like a really friendly guy and then like I say something and then you're gonna be like, whoa, dude. And I'm like, oh no, misread the situation. I'm on the subway. I'm in public. This is very embarrassing. So that was. So anyway, we ended up like we got off at the same stop and we're walking, and he's like, oh, like I'm going to some bars down in the village. So I was like, oh, what bars are you going to? And then he gave me like a list of straight bars, and I was like, okay. And then he was like, but like we should hang out. Like, give me your number. And I was like, okay. I was so like, what's happening? And I gave him my number, Keri, and I did the stupidest thing. I gave him my number. I put it in his phone, and then we like parted ways, and I was like, text me. I didn't get his number, and I never got a text. And I was like, get his number too. What's wrong with you? But he was like the one being like, give me your number. So I was like, okay. Anyway, so that's my
I'm
little
just
story
laughing
about.
that this still happens. I figured this was mostly relegated to decades past, where you had to dance around the subject, but I guess it makes sense. It's
Well,
sort of like,
you don't like. The only reason I had to dance around it was because I couldn't get a vibe off of him.
Yeah.
Like I didn't get like a gay vibe. Like a lot of times I can tell, and then like I'll be like, okay, I know what's happening, and then I'm not gonna be ashamed of it or anything. I wasn't even ashamed of it. I was just like, I can't get the vibe off of you.
You can't tell.
And I'm just like,
I thought at first when you said there was a guy on the train and I thought it was going to be you and you also couldn't tell what he thought about COVID. Okay.
No, this was like 2018.
Yeah. Oh,
This
okay.
was like, it just popped into my head because you were talking about gay guys in the 50s. I was like, I had to do that once.
It's happened.
And it didn't go anywhere. So whatever. That's my story.
Okay. We are going to bring up, I said we are going to get to this, so let's bring it up.
Yeah.
I'm going to share my screen. If you have stuff you want to put up, just drop it in the private chat, Matt. So if you guys are not on Twitter, Twitter's been hilarious lately. And
hilarious.
Yeah. So since I think traffic is up, since Elon bought Twitter, and he is a massive troll. I mean, he's part comedian like Trump. I mean, that's what I think. Do you get this impression from him?
Yeah. Like he's trying to like, he's trying to like, hit people with like the, with like with the sarcasm and everything. I like it. I think it's funny.
He's funny. He knows how to trolls. That word gets used a lot and misused, like a lot of words today. In my opinion, a troll is someone who uses humor and sarcasm to elicit a response and to point out some kind of truth and to kind of make jokes. Like a troll is part comedian. Like Milo Yiannopoulos is a huge troll. Trump is a troll, And all of us
Yeah.
have probably trolled in one way or another with humor before. So anyway,
Oh yeah.
Elon Musk, he's been trolling like crazy. He's doing these things that he knows are gonna just infuriate the left, the authoritarian left. And so one of them is, this is so funny, guys. He went to Twitter and asked, he was like, should we reinstate former President Trump? And you can see this here on the screen. He did a Twitter poll. like what do people on Twitter think about whether I should bring Trump back or not? And the left
And Trump
predictably,
won the election, didn't he? He won.
he won. He narrowly won.
Yes.
Bring him back. And the beauty of this is that means that so many people on the left were voting in his poll. He got them all to vote in his poll, the left and the right, and people who like Trump, people who don't like Trump, they were all participating. He tons of tweets about it. Of course, he's a top tier troll like Trump in that he knows he's going to get a lot of hate press, and so he just like leans into it in a way. Don't you think? He just uses it. He gets more press by doing stuff.
Yeah.
So,
well, they say there's no such thing as bad press, right?
Right. They do say that. I don't know if that's always true, but
yeah,
he seems to be proving that it is. So he did the poll. Trump won the poll that he should reinstate him. So then he says, the people have spoken. Trump will be reinstated. And the meltdown began. It had already begun, but this guy, I had never heard of this guy before. Here, you can see it on the screen, one of the top replies. This guy, David Levitt, Leavitt.
How many people will die because of this? Okay, David. Okay. All right. Calm it down.
Okay, if you guys are like me, you might not know, is this satire or is this real? This is real. This guy, David Levitt, he replied, how many people will die because of this? And then he tweeted more tweets. He tweeted something about, he did a standalone tweet on its own. How many Americans will die because Elon Musk has brought Trump back to Twitter?
It's so ridiculous. And of course it's completely serious. Like, because that's their thing lately is like, this is like people die because, I mean, it's honestly, I was gonna tell you, like, there was that shooting in Colorado. Everybody knows about it now, by now, but like was.
As my co-host today, can you tell me about it? Because I have not been following. I know there was a shooting, but I don't know the details.
Oh, yeah, it was really sad. So some lunatic went into a gay club in Colorado Springs, and just started shooting up the place, right? I think 5 people died, like 18 people were injured. It was a really terrible story. And that's what it is, a terrible story. I don't think that the press is not making any claims as to his motivation, which I find interesting.
That's weird. They usually do. If it's a gay club, they would say.
And I don't know. Was his motivation homophobic? I don't know. I don't know the answer. I don't know the guy. I don't know what the thing was. But the leftist Twitter they basically like seized upon this horrible event to effectively call for the First and Second Amendment to be completely scrapped. And yeah, I mean, I was very upset on Twitter, and I don't, we talk about trolling. Like, I try not to like do like too much of that. And I wasn't even trolling this with humor. I was just trolling it with like, people. I was like, how dare you? Like you're because they're basically the comments were like, this is what happens when people talk about groomers and trans kids and blah blah blah, and I'm like, no, like, and it was just like person after person after yeah, here we go. When you denigrate people as groomers and freaks, this is the tragic result. It could have been me. Okay, well, it wasn't you, but
yeah. By the way, what a narcissistic comment. It could have been me. I think that's meant to elicit some kind of emotion from the person reading it, as in like, oh, you're grappling with that you could have been the one killed, but it's really you see a story about 5 people being killed and 25 people being injured, and you immediately are like, you go to Twitter and you're like, this could have been me who died. Like, what is wrong with
Yeah.
you? What is
Yeah.
wrong with
Yeah.
you to take those people's deaths? And I don't know. I just find that gross.
Yeah, I
But
mean, so you see my response. Like, I was just like, first of all, one has nothing to do with the other. And, I did a lot of replies on people's things that yesterday, but I was like, that's you can't use emotional blackmail to be first of all, the people who are calling for, to stop with the gender ideology in schools are not responsible for this event. The guy who pulled the trigger is responsible for this event.
yeah.
Period. End of story. And I said something on someone's on like his AOC had put like a thing. I think I responded on Instagram, and I was like, this is typical leftism. Like, you're blaming everybody except the guy who pulled the trigger.
Yeah. They did the same thing when there was a bomb threat at some hospitals that are doing gender
I remember
reassignment
this.
surgery on children. So to be clear, like mastectomies on teenagers, and all of leftist Twitter, the blue check Twitter, the elite part of the leftist Twitter, that they were all saying this is the fault of libs of TikTok and Billboard Chris and Matt Walsh. Like, they were blaming people that had nothing to do with it, and that's just vile. It's
Right.
absolutely vile. They also, in the end, that bomb threat, I never heard anything else about it. I know Matt Walsh put up a reward fund for information on the person who called it in, and my suspicions are that the person who called it in may have been on the left calling it in so that they could then run with this narrative of like, look at these evil conservatives or people who oppose this. Look at these evil people. It's led to this bomb threat. Like, I truly, because the media went silent on it. It's like almost like they didn't care to find out who actually did that, who actually perpetrated that threat.
And that's crazy that like you can't. It's so bad. It's like you can't even trust anything anymore. And it's
No.
like that kind of thing. Like that could have very well been the scenario. And that's terrible. And but I can't stand. And I don't know why this hit me like more than some of the other stuff. But I was just like, why do you blame everybody who's talking about, because it's like you're trying to shut people up about very real issues. You're using
death
people who were just murdered to try and shut people up. And then of course, the classic ban guns. And I was like, so you're using this tragedy to scrap the First and the Second Amendment, to say you can't talk about gender ideology in schools because this is what happens. So you're not allowed to do that anymore. And by the way, you're not allowed to have a gun because this raving lunatic decided to do something really awful with a gun.
Yeah. The way I try to describe it to friends of mine who are still on the left is, because I'm always trying to think of like, how do you explain something where they might be likely to hear you? And the explanation is this, this is the best I've gotten so far, is you are taking an evil perpetrated by someone, a great evil murder, and you're using that to push for an even bigger societal evil, which is to disarm civilians and to leave the government being the only person in the room with a gun, which is,
that hasn't worked out so well in history, has it?
It's never worked out in history to disarm civilians. And so to take an evil and use it to push a greater evil, that's the way I view it. And they don't, and I don't think there's like they may still disagree with me when I explain it that way, but I think at least with some people that's helped them to understand the way I view it more, because sometimes they're coming from that echo chamber where they've never heard a defense of the Second Amendment or of civilians owning guns in terms of, it being an argument for liberty and for individualism and for protection against tyranny, and they've never even heard the historical context. A lot I had not when I was on the left, and
Mm-hmm.
I was an anomaly. I shot guns, I was a gun instructor, but I had never really thought about the historical, like the moments in history, the times in history where populations have been disarmed, and then the outcome of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's yeah. I mean, think of any tyrannical government in history. They disarmed the population wasn't allowed to have a
Yeah.
gun. They were. Only
Yeah.
they were. And it's like you know what? And I think I always understood that. Like even when I was on the left, I would tell people I'm uncomfortable with the straight repeal of the Second Amendment. And I wasn't very popular for it back then. But I was like, that makes me very uncomfortable. Now, of course, I would couch it with like, but yeah, okay, assault weapons, whatever, I would couch it with all of that. But but there were people who were like, there's no reason for civilians to have guns, period, point blank. And I was like, actually, I feel like there was a reason that was written into this. Is even back then, there was a reason that was written into the Constitution. I mean, do you really just want the government with like everything we're saying now? But I'll pat myself on the back a little bit for that one, for a little bit, slightly. For
the first time, I've mentioned this before, but the first time I ever really thought about it was so back when I lived in Los Angeles. That's when I had my handgun instructor's certificate. I was doing classes with a girls' gun club there, and we had two different ranges that we primarily used. And one of those ranges, we couldn't get on Holocaust Remembrance Day. We couldn't get range space. And it was because the whole place had been rented out. And they told us that's the busiest day they have every year, is because all these Jewish groups come in for Holocaust Remembrance Day and rent out the range and bring in, their youth to practice shooting. And it just was like, because I was in the woke left, I just the woke left is really great at convincing you that, all the women are with us and all the Jews are with us and all the black people and all the gay people are with us. And so
yeah.
it was really, even though I was against type because I was a shooter, it still shocked me that the Jewish groups were shooters, that they were coming out. And that was the first time I ever started thinking about, like, why are they renting this out on, well, duh. Why are they renting it out on Holocaust Remembrance Day?
Yeah, because they have history of what happens when you give the government all the power and all the weapons and all the everything, and they decide they don't like you.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to show you something since we're talking about guns.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know we were going to go here today, but this is pretty funny. This is an oldie but goodie. So, I think this is probably 10 years old. This is back when they were first pushing for the so-called, you said assault weapons, right? One of the things they do is they use that phrase assault weapon, and they never define it. They can't define it. And if you ask someone on the left who uses that phrase, they won't be able to define it. They will sometimes say, well, it's an automatic weapon. Okay, great. Those are already banned, except with rare exceptions. So the AR-15s you're talking about, those are not automatic. Those are semi-automatic, like a semi-automatic handgun. So they don't even know what that means. First of all, they think those are a lot of people who say assault weapons thinks that they're fully automatic. They can never define the very thing they want to ban. And I feel like at the very least, you should know enough about a subject to know what you're talking about before you push for policy and legislation that would ban that thing that you can't even define. And so back when they were doing the first assault weapons ban push, I think this was a viral clip way back then. You may not have ever seen this. So this was on Tucker Carlson when he was on MSNBC. And
whoa, that's taking it back.
Yeah. And so this was after a shooting, and they were pushing to ban assault weapons and a whole bunch of other stuff, including like they were trying to cover all their bases. They were trying to define an AR-15 without knowing how to. And so they were saying, well, anything that has a barrel shroud or anything that has this. So watch this politician when Tucker Carlson asks her what it is that she wants to ban. you guys. This became a huge meme afterwards.
In February, you introduced the Assault Weapons Ban and Law Enforcement Protection Act of 2007. It would regulate semi-automatic assault weapons, including weapons that have pistol grips, a forward grip, and something called a barrel shroud. Weapons with a barrel shroud would be regulated. What's a barrel shroud, and why should we regulate it?
I think the more important thing is that it also would have had banned the large capacity clips that Colin Ferguson had used, and also the killer.
Okay. But I read the legislation. I'm sorry, I read the legislation, and it said that it would regulate barrel shrouds. What's a barrel shroud, and why should we regulate that?
The guns that were chosen back in those days were basically the guns that most gangs and criminals were using to kill our police officers. I'm not saying it was the best bill, but that was the best bill they could get out at that particular time. I actually don't know what a barrel shroud is.
Because it's in your legislation.
It's a shoulder thing that goes up.
Did you hear that?
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. God have mercy on your soul.
In February, you introduced.
So at the end, after she said, I was laughing over it, so you guys may not have heard it, but she goes, she finally admits, I don't know what it is. So she goes, I think it's that shoulder thing that goes up. And so shoulder thing that goes up.
The shoulder thing that goes up. Oh my God.
That became a massive meme in the gun community. It's still a joke to this day where people will say like, oh, you're talking about the gun that has the shoulder thing that goes up.
Yeah, ban that. Write that in your legislation. Be like, all guns with the shoulder thing that goes up shall henceforth be banned. Oh my God.
Thanks for letting me take that trip down memory lane. There's a bunch of like oldies but goodies on this issue, so that's one of them.
Oh my God, that's funny. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I was gonna say when he reinstated Trump, I hadn't followed Trump before he got banned. So like I had a good time like scrolling through being like, okay, where's the insurrectionist? Where are the calls for violence? And I spoiler alert, couldn't find them. Just couldn't find them anywhere.
Yeah.
So that was fun.
It's kind of a wake-up call when you start to actually leave the echo chamber and you start looking for the source material so you can make up your own mind about things. And then you're like, wait a minute, now that I'm actually looking at this, like the left, like you said, a lot of people who blessedly are still Facebook friends with me and haven't unfriended me yet. But so I see their posts and they haven't ever, like his Charlottesville comments, where the media just kept hammering that he had said, that the white nationalists were very fine people, and that's not what he said. You can go and watch his full context of his speech, but they've never looked for it. They've never looked it up. They just trust the media. So
I know, it's crazy. I mean, I didn't think I was gonna find calls for violence, but I was like, let me look because he's been banned this whole time, and I was like, and then like, somebody, because I had posted like a thing with his comments about like, everybody stay peaceful, we're the side of law and order, respect law enforcement, whatever. Those were one of his last tweets before he was banned. And I saw people being like, scroll back further. So I was like, I will. And I scrolled back further and I was like, I can't find anything. I really can't find anything. I mean, what they're talking about is his claims of election fraud, which is something that he claimed. It might be true. It might not be true. I don't really know. I wasn't in the rooms, but I was like, that's not inciting a violent riot at the Capitol to state your opinion about how the electoral process went. I was like, I'm just like, is that what you're talking about? Of course it's what they're talking about. But I'm like, come on, guys, come on. To borrow a phrase from the left, do better.
Yeah.
Like I was like, come on, do better.
So I've got people in the chat who are talking about James Lizzie is back. So in addition In addition to Megan Murphy, they've also now reinstated Conceptual James on Twitter. I'm just going to pull up. He's already backing Adam, like, he's already ruffling feathers. Just put it that way.
As he does so well.
Yeah. So, you guys, can you see this? It's a picture of him. He says, "So I've been keeping busy." This is one of his first tweets back, and it's him taking a leak on a Karl Marx statue for Thanksgiving, I guess. Yeah.
How beautiful.
That's pretty funny. You guys, if you're not already on Twitter, if you left during the Great Exile or if you were banned, it's a really kind of a wild, wild west right now with all the people coming back. As we mentioned, Elon also said he's bringing Trump back. And so Trump's account was reinstated. Now, last I looked, he had not tweeted yet. And apparently he has said that he's not going to return because he's on Truth Social now and he's not coming back.
I don't believe that.
I don't believe that for a second either.
I don't believe that.
He can't stay away. Like, I just don't think.
Oh, there was something so funny. Wait. I think Trump Jr. actually retweeted it. I got to find it. But let's see. It was wait a minute. I think it's recent enough that I can find it. He basically tweeted like a Family Guy thing with like Lois is sitting there with a bottle of pills looking all like cracked out and being like, Trump returning to Twitter. Yeah,
I saw that one like a junkie looking at it. Like, I need that.
Yeah.
He has, look at this. He has 87.5 million followers on Twitter. And I do believe Trump has narcissistic traits. And I definitely think, and everybody does to some degree. And having narcissistic traits does not make one a narcissist. But I think he's on the high end of narcissistic traits.
I agree. Yes.
And, has a pretty large ego. And I just don't think he can stay away from an audience this big of 87.5 million people. Plus, I think he's the type of person who likes to troll, as we've mentioned, and likes to rub things in. And so I think he would delight too much in being here and interacting with the woke left again. Because, Truth Social in those places, it's like an echo chamber.
Yeah, they are echo chambers. So this is the place where you're going to get all the hate and all the, all the nastiness, and he's going to love that. He's coming back. I bet you anything he'll be back.
Yeah, I think it's only a matter of time. We should take bets on how long it takes him. Here, I'm going to take this down. Mike Harlow is here. Hello, Mikey Harlow. Sorry, I'm a bit late,
Michael.
But this is the crossover I've been waiting for, he says.
Oh, I was just on Mike's show last night.
Oh, yeah. So tell me about, you guys are, Mike's planning to move to Florida. Mike has a fundraiser going now. He's doing a web series called Escape from New York, and about how to leave a blue state. And he's got to get his driver's license and a bunch of other stuff. You're moving with him. Is that right?
Yeah. So I'll probably be guest starring in the documentary. But yeah, no, I'm getting the hell out of here too. So Mike and I made this plan a little while ago. Basically we were talking and it was like, we can't be here. So we kind of looked at each other and we're like, we're going to move to Florida. And it's like, yeah, I think we are. We are.
I'm very happy for you guys. And it's sad what's happened to New York, but you're not, I know so many friends who've left there in the past couple of years, and quite a few of them have ended up in Florida. So
it's
North or South Carolina. That's where the New Yorkers are going. It seems like New Yorkers are going to like the Carolinas or Florida, and the Californians are coming to Texas.
I guess maybe it's just a proximity thing, right? Like California is closer to Texas, and like Florida and the Carolinas are East Coast. Like if you're from New York, maybe probably. But here's the thing. Unfortunately, not to say that I'm not going to be contributing to this, I am, but like unfortunately, the reason that New York is likely going to stay blue is because we can't stand it here like the people who could turn New York red can't stand it anymore.
Yeah.
And that's a shame. I am very confident in my decision to move to Florida because I need to take care of me. And I need to be in a place where I'm going to be respected for my medical decisions and all of that. But it's a shame. It's really a shame that that this is how it had to be, right? Because I think part of the reason we didn't even talk about the midterms yet, but part of the reason that Florida is like blood red now is A, because the people who live there have liked how it is, but I also think B, there are so many people moving from blue states who can't stand what's happening that are they're voting for Ron DeSantis in their sleep.
Yes. We had a similar thing happening here in Texas with the Californians who are coming. So it's actually, I was worried for a while that, you've got two kinds of people coming here from California. You've got the cultural refugees like Gary from Neurotic, like the people like you who are done with the blue state and are like, I'm moving to Texas, for the red. And those people, I'm like, come on, we need you. Like, come on, I'm all for, it's sad what's happened in New York, California, but just abandon it. Come here. We need you because they're trying to do the same thing here. And then you've also got these I view them as, they think they're missionaries, the woke left. When they come into Texas, they come in like missionaries where they're like, we are here to be evangelicals for woke and to convert all you Texas heathens and to make you like California. They come in with this very condescending, morally superior attitude. And you can see that in the recent election when Beto got his ass kicked for a third time. You can see that in you can see that in their tweets about it. And a lot of them they're doing the whole flouncing out thing and the dramatic exit thing. Like, that's it. I'm moving. I saw tweets. Seriously. I saw highlighted some of these. They're like, I'm moving back to California. I tried to help you guys and teach you guys. It's like so condescending. Like, nobody asked you to come here and be a missionary. Okay. If you come here with grace as a refugee. Like, we are accepting you as an immigrant. You're not here as some enlightened missionary to make us like you and the failed state you've left.
No, and then I love that. Oh, I tried. I'm moving back to California. Bye. You need help? Yeah. You need help packing?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, absolutely. I will help you pack your bags. I will pack your car. I will pack your U-Haul for you. Goodbye. Have a good time. Enjoy California.
Enjoy it. Win-win. Go back to California. It's going to be great for you there. We're happy that you're leaving. Like, it's nobody's upset by this. Like, you're not upset. Yeah. We're not saying goodbye.
Yeah, like, it's going to be good for you too. Like, you're going to move to California where everybody thinks like you, and you can wear 12 masks on your face, and you can, and you can dye your hair and say like you're a they, them. I guess you can do that in Texas too. But but you know what I mean? Like, just enjoy yourself. Go do that. And
yourself.
It's sad though that that it feels like, at least for the time being, it has to be like this, where it's like, okay, the blue people over there, the red people over here, the wokies. Yeah.
I agree. And the sad thing is, like you said, I think I know where you're going with this. It's sad because I don't actually think left and right matters very much at all. It doesn't. It's an illusion. They keep us divided and at each other's throats. The ones who buy into the left right thing and like, oh, it's so important if you're a Democrat or Republican. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. The parties are not that different. It's right. What's more important is whether you're for, you're an authoritarian or you're an individualist. Do you believe in that the government should have the right to tell you what to, whether you or not you have to take a vaccine, like put things in your body? Do you think the government has the right to be the only person in the room with the guns to disarm you as a citizen? Does the government have the right to tell you can't evict people from your private property if they haven't paid rent, which is what they did the past couple of years? Does the government, it's like, do you believe in absolute government authority over individual rights and freedoms and liberty? Or do you believe in individual rights, liberty, and freedom is above government power? So that's what's important. And all that being said, unfortunately, we do still talk in these red blue dichotomy and this right left dichotomy because so many people still buy into it,
Right.
and that's, I don't know, I guess that's the easiest way to, as you mentioned, you're voting Republican right now, Matt, because they're most in line with your values, so you're all about the red. That's kind of where I'm at, but it doesn't mean it won't switch. It doesn't mean it's not
Right.
going to change. But right now, it's a good litmus test. So yeah, in Texas, the first time I ever voted Republican was 2018, and I voted for Ted Cruz against Beto, because Ted Cruz was the most liberal person running. Beto wanted to take our guns, and but I voted for a lot of libertarians, and I think even some Democrats. I did. I voted for Tulsi Gabbard. So it was like a mixed ballot, but it was the first time I voted Republican on for anyone, right? And this time, flash forward, that was 2018. This time, I voted straight red because I want to send a message like, get the F out if you don't like it, honestly. Like, you can have your woke authoritarian wonderland over there and allow us to have liberty here. Like that, if you don't like that you can't control people, and you don't like that you can't mutilate children, you're welcome to go to a state like California that says they'll let you do that.
Yeah.
And it's a shame for those kids, but
Yeah.
if you don't like the fact that you can't control people here, then go somewhere else. And so I wanted to send that message. We're not welcome for you. Last thing, I know I've been ranting a bit. Here's something I learned, and this might be true for Florida, where you're going. I wasn't sure if those refugees, the cultural refugees I mentioned, outnumbered the woke missionaries that are coming here. And then I looked at some election numbers, and I looked at those Ted Cruz Beto numbers from 2018. And Ted Cruz won among recent migrants to Texas, among all the, and Beto won among native Texans. Is that crazy?
What?
Yes. And so
what do you mean?
I know. So thank God for the cultural refugees who are coming here. You guys are the ones pushing Beto out and pushing the woke out, and more of you come in. We're doing great because of you.
Well, so here's the thing. It's like, now I haven't moved yet, obviously, but like I imagine, like, when I move, like if I were to meet like a native Floridian, let's say, who like wants to vote Democrat, like I'd literally look at them and be like, no, you don't understand because you weren't in New York. Like, I think some of that is like, if the natives are going, if the refugees are breaking more for the Republican candidates, it's like, because I know what I came from. I know it's why Cubans vote Republican, because they're like, socialism? No, I risk my life to get on a boat to make it to Miami. And that's why Cubans break for Republicans, like, always. Especially the ones, maybe if generations down, I don't know what they do, but the ones who actually left Cuba, they always break for Republicans, because
everyone who's escaped communism, it's like,
yes.
they know.
Yep.
That's you.
Yeah.
You're like, it's a good analogy. You're escaping New York.
But I have to say, like, in a piece of good news, right? Even though Kathy Hochul won the election in New York, she won it by 5 points over Lee Zeldin. That has not happened in 2 decades in the state of New York on a statewide election. And I drew this comparison on Twitter the other day. Ron DeSantis in 2018 out an election win by about a point. And in 4 years later, in 2022, he won the election by 20 points, right? So that's a gigantic leap. And in New York, Kathy Hochul hadn't been elected before. She was Cuomo's lieutenant governor. But Andrew Cuomo in 2018 won the state of New York by 23 points in 2018. And in 2022, Kathy Hochul won by 5 points.
It's amazing. It's shifting. Everything's shifting.
Yes. And again, not that the Democrats are going to learn any lessons from this. They're not going to go, whoa, we slimmed our margin way down. We have to do something different. They're not going to do that. They don't care about that. All they care about is that they won. And, but it should be a wake up call that like Lee Zeldin was like this close to winning the governorship in the state of New York, because he is, and it's not just COVID. COVID was a big part of it, but it's not just COVID. It's the crime. It's the lawlessness that is happening in New York City. It's the drug addicts on the street that with mental health issues that are apparently we're not allowed to involuntarily commit and medicate these people anymore because I don't know. So like, you know, if they don't want to be there, they can just be let out back onto the street to like, you know, and all of that, even with the mass exodus, because I know Ron DeSantis won by 20 points in part because of people who moved to Florida to escape the leftism. So even with all those people who don't have a vote in New York anymore, Kathy Hochul still won by only 5 points.
By only 5. It's shifting. I'm like, all these people who were really, I don't follow politics as closely as, even though I get called a political channel by people who don't watch me, I'm like, I don't really have much faith in politics. I have more faith in culture. That's why I enjoy talking and hanging out with culture changers and I like talking to people who know more about and are more interested in politics than I am as well. But I think changing culture is where it's at. Like that's how you change politics eventually, is you change culture. So anyway, long story short, all these people are watching all these different elections in different states and talking about whether or not there's going to be a red wave and all this stuff. And I just didn't even really follow that. But you did follow it a little more closely, didn't you? What were your thoughts about the outcome? You just shared some of them. That's an amazing movement there in New York.
Yeah, I mean, so I have a lot of thoughts about the outcome. I think that that Ron DeSantis set the example of how Republicans win with how he governed the state of Florida. I think that, you know, that is the model of how, especially of how you fight the woke leftism. I think that other Republicans, they weren't quite up to snuff with that, or they were equivocating on things. And I think that's just not
how you win.
How you win.
I agree with you.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I agree. After Abbott won, and he kicked Beto's ass like 10 points or more. I don't remember what the final numbers were. At one point, I know he was 13 points up, and it's amazing because Beto raised him in terms of money and everything. Abbott kicked his butt, and what was amazing about that is that he's not a DeSantis Abbott. He's not very bold. He's sort of milquetoast. He's a little bit more wishy-washy, and so I don't know. I tweeted at him after the election and just said, I think a lot of people feel this way. It's like, I didn't actually vote for you. I was voting against Beto. And I would like to exactly what you said. Look at DeSantis and look at how far ahead he was, how it wasn't even a close race at all. Like that's someone people are voting for because he's bold and he does what he says he's going to do. And he's not afraid to be bold, and you need to be bold. And then lo and behold, right after he won, I have to say, it looks like Greg Abbott is getting a little more bold here in Texas. He started putting out these things. He's sending more illegal immigrants to sanctuary cities. On November 15th, he goes, the first Texas bus of migrants has departed from Philadelphia. The Lone Star State will continue doing more than any state in history to secure our border, including adding more sanctuary cities as drop-off locations for our busing strategy. And this is amazing. He and DeSantis have been doing this now for a little while, where they're taking, all they're doing is taking sanctuary cities up on their word. It's like they're calling their bluff. They're saying, you said it, You said you would share the burden with why should our poor Texas border towns be the ones to shoulder this burden because of what you guys want? And you said you would shoulder the burden. So we're taking you up on it. And every time they do it, they freak out and like, we didn't mean it. Don't send them here.
Right.
You know?
Well, I mean, they're basically saying, okay, was it an empty electoral promise? Because that's what your constituents voted for. They voted for you to be an all-loving sanctuary city who takes everybody. So take them.
So take them.
Take them. I was with some friends. This was maybe a couple months ago when DeSantis had sent the 50 migrants to Martha's Vineyard, right? And you know, and I was with, and God bless my friend. I have nothing bad to say about them. They are friends of mine who are liberals who did not abandon me when so God bless them. But, a lot of times we don't talk politics anymore because it's like, that it's going to be a little, I can't find the word, but you know what I mean? They were like, but they brought it up. They were like, oh, did you see Ron DeSantis shipping people up to Massachusetts and blah, blah, blah. And they were starting to be like, oh, like that's human trafficking. And I looked at them because I'm like, all right, you brought it up. Here we go. I looked at them then in the face. I went, to Martha's Vineyard? Like they were trafficked to Martha's Vineyard. If that's trafficking, they got a really, really good deal out of that. Like I was like, Martha's Vineyard is beautiful. They and all the stuff we were saying back then about how these people, it's off season. So a lot of people aren't even there. And they've got these huge mansions. Aren't you so altruistic? Wouldn't you want to just take these people and they all have their own room in your 12-bedroom mansion? You said. And then my friends were getting it wrong. They were like, but the people in Martha's Vineyard showed them. They took them in. I said, no, they didn't. I said they gave them some Rice Krispie treats and smiled at them and sent them away on buses. They did. They were like, no. They were like, no, they didn't. I pulled up an article. I was like, yes, they did. I was like, look at this. MSNBC. But buses are shipping the migrants out to an army base, blah, blah, blah. And then just for good measure, I showed them the one where they were giving them Rice Krispie treats and little candies and whatever. And I was like, these rich people, they can't even cook a nice meal for them. They're giving them Rice Krispie treats. I was like,
were they homemade or were they those little prepackaged ones?
No, they were all prepackaged. They were
didn't even make them?
No, it was like all this stuff from the dollar store, Rice Krispie treats and Twizzlers. I was like, and they were like, oh, and then, oh my God, they were there's footage of them, and then the buses are leaving and these people in Martha's Vineyard are crying. They're like, hasta luego. I'm like, oh, stop. Oh, stop. Oh my God, you're so fake. You're so fake.
You were so right. They don't know that Martha's Vineyard sent these migrants on their way to an army base. They also don't know when they're like, it's human trafficking. They have no idea that Biden's been doing the same thing and sending plane rides of migrants to New York. They have no idea. When they're in that bubble, you only see the news that the cabal wants you to see, that the cathedral wants you to see. You really have to. Right. I'm always telling my friends, I don't care. You can hate right-wing media as much as you want. Just at least read some of it, so you know.
Yes.
So you know what's going on. You can still hate them, and the worst. But you're not doing yourself any favors because you don't know these basic facts.
I know. No, I'm sorry. It wasn't. It was Te Amo. That was they're like, Te amo. Yeah, we love you. And I was like, stop it. Yeah. With your Rice Krispie treats and your bus rides away. Give me a break. Give me a friggin' break. Oh, that was, yeah. So, but I told my friend, and then they were like, they looked at the article and they were like, oh. And I was like, because they had such conviction. They were like, the Martha's Vineyard people showed them, they took them in. I said, no, they didn't. I said, they took them in for one night. Gave them some food and shipped them away. I was like, so like, just, I don't care. You want to think it's human trafficking? I can't stop you from that. But like you said, get the facts. They came in, they got some Rice Krispie treats, and they were sent on their way. That's what happened. Whatever you think about it, that's your business. But, you know.
Oh, I know you got to run soon. So just
sorry,
quickly.
I have
that's fine.
Stuff, you know.
We have one last thing I wanted to put up on screen because this was so funny. This is also about how Twitter's the Wild West now, and there's so much trolling and funny stuff happening. I was on the Quartering show the other night. Thank you, Pirate Tomsky, by the way. Here it is. And he was tweeting this stuff during the show. He was just having fun with it because he was talking about some of this Twitter stuff. So here's his tweet. He says, "Hey, if you're mad that Elon Musk reinstated Donald Trump, just remember Twitter is a private company and can do as it likes. If you don't like it, you can always just build your own Twitter."
Boom! And Twitter's like even more of a private company now. Like at least before it was a public company on the stock market. Now it's like straight up privately owned.
Now it's straight up privately owned. Yes.
And you know what? I don't like everything that Elon Musk has done. I think it's a far better thing now than it was before. But Elon put up a tweet that was like, you know, it said something like Twitter is freedom of speech, but not freedom of reach. And like any like negative or hateful blah 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 is going to be like whatever it is, shadow banned. He didn't use the word shadow banned, but basically whatever that means. And there were a lot of comments under that I agreed with. And it's like, okay, well, now we're back to square one. Like who decides what hateful is? Is it you? Is it a team of your employees? Like who, you know? And again, I'm not trying to say that like I prefer the old Twitter. I don't. But you know, I saw that and I was like, buddy, like, don't go down that road. You know what I mean? Of like, because who's going to decide? Well, ultimately, you're right. It is a really private company now in total ownership of Elon Musk. He can do whatever he wants.
He can do absolutely whatever he wants. He's not an idol. Don't make an idol of him. There are going to be things you disagree with. I disagreed with one. He's been posting these really funny memes. I thought one was really distasteful. I didn't like it. It was it just grossed me out. I mean, you know, there's things about him I don't like. And that's human nature. You don't have to be completely in like we should not make idols of men, you know. So okay, I know you got to run. Before you go, do you want to tell me, since it's Thanksgiving week, what you're grateful for? It'll boost your mood.
Yes. Well, I am grateful my parents moved to a red state and I am going to visit them and see their new place for the first time. So I'm very, very grateful for that. I need to, at least if I can't move just right this second, I need to just be in a red state for 4 or 5 days. Very grateful for that. This is going to sound sappy and cheesy, but Keri, I'm very grateful for you for having me on.
It doesn't sound sappy to me. You can be grateful for little things, big things. So,
and I'm very in this year. I'm very grateful that I have met a lot of people, even living where I live. That I've met a lot of people who are really kind of on the same page with all of this. This is literally what we were talking about right before we got on, but it was a rough 2 years for me. Where I had basically my parents were some of my only friends, which God bless them. I love my parents very much. They're wonderful people. But you know, I'm a man in his 30s, and you know, it was tough for a while. And I really feel like I'm finding my crew. So I'm very grateful for that.
That's a great list. Thank you for sharing it with us. I hope you have a happy Thanksgiving. And last thing, tell people where they can find you. Pirates got it right here in the chat.
Yeah, so follow me on Twitter and Instagram. They are both Mantar NYC. That's like my first initial and my last name, and then NYC, which I'm gonna need to change soon. But I made the handle when I was having more fun here. Yeah, so follow me on those socials, and then I have a YouTube channel that I'm just kind of getting off the ground. And I have 2 sort of podcast style episodes on there. It's youtube.com like at Matt Antar. I did one of the ats. So it's just at Matt Antar. You'll find me, or if you search my name in the search bar, my channel will come up. Please subscribe. I'm like getting close to 100 subscribers, which will be like a milestone. So please subscribe.
Everybody go subscribe. We'll get you to 100. That'll be a great milestone.
Yes. And I just have to acknowledge Michael Harlow in the chat saying that I'm grateful for him forcing me to watch the Scream movies. Yes, Michael, I'm very, very grateful. We watched Scream 3 last night, so I'm caught up on the first 3. So you know, Michael, I'm very grateful for you and all of that, and the Scream movies.
I think Mikey's going to jump in and join me now that you're running off in a minute. So if you guys are still here and hanging out, go follow Matt Antar. Thank you for being here today, Matt. Have a nice Thanksgiving.
You too. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
If you guys want to stick around, I think Mikey's going to join me in a second, and we're going to do our gratitude list. We'll just continue with the things that we're grateful for today, since I think it might be the last episode before Thanksgiving. It's definitely the last live show before Thanksgiving. So I want to go over some of those things. Hold on, just looking to see where Mikey is. Okay. Couple of things in the chat. Redzilla says, Keri, I love you so much. We should go shoot some guns someday. My treat. Oh, dude, I won't say no to that. Bullets are expensive. So if you you want to take me and my husband to the gun range, I'll squeeze him in there too, and then I'll invite him along too. But if you're in Texas, man, hit me up, and I would love that. If you're in Texas, speaking of, my husband and I are doing our first house concert in December, and it is a private invitation link because it's a house concert and there are a limited number of seats. I think we're going to be closing down ticket sales soon because I think we're pretty close to hitting that limit. But if you're in the Austin, Texas area, or if you're in Texas and just want to come see this part of Texas, you can hit me up at deprogrammedpod@gmail.com. If I recognize you and I know you're not a crazy person, if I recognize you from the chat, what have you, I'll give you the ticket link, and it's going to be great. It's going to be, let's see, my husband's doing piano and guitar. He's booked an opera singer, an amazing opera singer. They're doing some classical pieces. He's going to have his baby grand piano by then, and he's booked his drummer, upright bass, fiddle player. It's like a whole band, and we're just gonna have a big party with music. So if you're around, we want to do a lot of these. So again, you can hit me up at deprogrammedpod@gmail.com. There's Mr. Harlow. Hello.
Hey!
How are you?
It's so good to see your face. I missed you.
I missed you. Happy Thanksgiving week.
Thank you. You too. I'm always thankful for you and Matt.
I'm thankful for you. You make me smile. I haven't talked to you in a while. So thanks for dropping in as a surprise. Look, I only have about 30 minutes left of this stream. And since it's Thanksgiving week, I wanted to just do some gratitude stuff because people in the chat early on, Adam said he needs a pick-me-up. I saw Dion's here. Hello, Dion. She says, hey, all, sorry I'm late. Been a hell of a day. I know a lot of people, it's been a hell of a day, hell of a week, hell of a month. So here's the scientific reason, not the emotional cheesy reason, but scientific reason why it's good to do this. You should keep a gratitude journal, or I have to remind myself to do this, to write down, actually say out loud and vocalize the things you're grateful for, because neuroscientists say it helps elevate your mood. It helps pick you up. People self-report in studies you know, that they feel better after having expressed gratitude. And so that's the scientific reason why we're going to list some things we're grateful for today. You guys can list things in the chat you're grateful for. We'll put them up on screen. Hello, your average Patriot Nerd. Your average Patriot Nerd is a YouTube member on the channel. I forgot to mention, we do have YouTube memberships now here at Deprogrammed. You can become a member if you want to support the show. If you like the content and want to support the show, you can also support on Subscribestar, Locals, and Patreon. Thank you, sir, for being a member. Okay. What are some things that you are grateful for, Mr. Harlow?
I'm grateful for you. Truly. No, I'm not just saying that because you're here. Truly. You are just the greatest friend in the world. I am so thankful for Matt. Isn't he the best?
He's great. He's moving with you.
Yes. I'm thankful for my family. I'm thankful we're getting the hell out of here. Please, God. I'll be very thankful to be able to like put my toes in the sand with a pina colada.
Yeah, a pina colada.
Oh, I can't wait.
It's gonna be.
I'm very thankful for Matt because like all my friends left New York and then we ended up becoming really great friends, and he's just the best friend you could ever have. He's the best. We did a show last night, and I'm making him watch all the Scream movies. So we were up to Scream 3 last night.
That's awesome. You and I have never had a horror movie slumber party, which at some point we probably need to do. I mean,
we need to start planning the playlist of movies.
Yeah, just a fun hangout night, you know, where you're just like, let's have some guilty fucking pleasures and fun. Sorry for the cursing.
I bring it out in you.
So
people ask what's Keri's dark side. I am Keri's dark side.
That is not true, sir. Okay, you bring me joy. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for you jumping on the stream. Do you want me to do my list?
Yes.
Should I do mine, or you have more on yours?
Do I have more? I'm thankful for all you guys who care to listen to us at all. Like that always really means a lot to me.
People in the chat have some things. Laura says, I'm thankful my husband fixed my refrigerator. We just replaced the microwave, and I was like, oh.
That's a good husband.
That's a good husband. Adam Worrell says, I'm thankful for you guys, Keri, Mikey, and a number of others I know online. You keep me sane.
Aww.
Well, like Mike said, we're grateful for you guys. I'm like,
you're the best, dude.
Building this.
He was cracking me up in the chat.
Fellowship of people. Leah Cole. Hello, Leah. She says, I've been journaling.
I'm thankful for you, babe.
Since I was 9 years old. Keri's 100% right. Yeah, journaling's not just good for doing your gratitude list and elevating your mood, but it's also good for me for memory. I have a bad memory, and it's really great to journal. So you can remember things better. Okay, so my list, I have to say, and you and I haven't talked about all this offline yet. We keep saying we're going to have a call soon, but I'm thankful to God because I just came through a trial. Everybody goes through these life trials, and you'll know what I'm talking about. Family stuff, medical stuff, financial stuff, job stuff, whatever it is. Everybody's gone through something, and if you are a believer, you may have had a similar experience to me with this last trial, where it's sort of like, I think maybe your faith as a Christian does this. It kind of goes up and down sometimes, where you can get into, even as a Christian, a hopeless state, and still be praying and stuff, but just sort of not realizing until later that you're not really putting your faith in God to fix this. That you're and I had one of those things happen where it wasn't until I talked to some Christian friends, I got some great advice, and I really came back and changed my prayers, and just and I prayed for, help me to trust, help me to let go of any sense of controlling or fixing things on my own, and just put my trust in you, because I'm a believer. Then I say I believe that you can do this, so I have to believe. And lo and behold, like, everything changed for me that night after saying that prayer. after praying for a miracle and saying, I let go, I just put this in God's hands. And so I know this will be cheesy probably to some non-believers listening, but I'm very grateful to God, and I have to constantly remind myself to not put anyone or anything else up in that God spot for me, that God is my top, God is my bottom, my foundation. That's my rock, right? So and then I'm very grateful for my husband, and I'm in love with my husband in a cheesy way. And he's got oh, Mikey, I was on the quartering stream a couple nights ago.
I
And
know. I need to watch. I saw your text the next day. I was like, oh my God, I gotta watch this.
it was so fun. Pirate Tomsky was like, hey, he needs somebody to jump on. So I jumped on after I got off work, and he plugged my husband's music video. So I'm gonna plug it in because I love my husband. I'm very proud of all the hard work he's doing right now, not just on our house and renovation. I mean, he works his butt off, but he's also in the midst of all this and this chaos of fixing this house up. He's been shooting some music videos and writing new songs and new music that's just so like a step above, like very emotionally touching music. And so anyway, he's got a new video out called Santa Rosa, and then there's a new one that we just finished shooting that's going to be coming out soon called Devil in My Heart. So I want to plug those. I am very grateful for my church. I'm very grateful for my pastor, who is smart, wise, kind, and generous with his time, and really views his job as being like a doctor for the soul. Like, will give of his time when people in the church need it, and doesn't. It's like, that's just what my job is. If you need a doctor, I'm here, right? Like, and that my church elders, I'm just very grateful for their support, having these strong men in my life, in my church family, and these strong role models for our community. What else? And I'm very grateful for the deprogrammed fellowship, is the word Gary would use instead of community. The deprogrammed fellowship, and all of you guys who come and spend time in the chat, the people who support the show financially or otherwise, sharing links, letting people know about it, using videos to talk to your woke friends and family. Very grateful for you. Very grateful for the knitters who have been there to catch me many times and have just amazed me with their, like, just what great humans they are, and also like how much time and care they put into relationships. And maybe that comes because they're so used to putting time and care into their hobby. Like they spend so much time making gifts. They made me this quilt that's like 50 people or something. I don't know. It's a large number. I'm gonna post about it and highlight, probably for Thanksgiving, like each square of this quilt, because it's just so moving. I've never got a gift like that. So I'm very grateful for you guys. I'm not gonna cry today. I've already had my tears out this past month. I'm good.
You're so emo.
But you guys touched me. I am emo. That's okay.
That's what we love about you.
That's okay. Okay, I think I'm good. I could keep going. I'm grateful for my little dog, Tiger. Whenever I see him, he just cheers me up. He's always like, "Hey, you're back. You were gone for 5 minutes. I love you." What about you? Anything else?
Oh gosh. It's been a rough year. I'm like coming up a little short on the list. I'll think of some things.
Mm-hmm. Well,
but I guess I'm grateful for that as well, because if you can make it through, which feels impossible sometimes, you can get through anything. If I can get through this last year or two stuck here, there's nothing I can't do.
That's how I feel. That's how I feel having come through my trial. Is like, okay, I'm stronger now. I'm ready. And I think the same for you. Everything that you're going through, and your move, and how stressful that is, and uncertainty and fears and anxieties crop up, like you're going to be so much stronger on the other side of that, Mikey. So Dion says, I can't wait to see Mikey with a tan.
I'm gonna be Orange Man.
I've got a couple of gratitude lists from the chat. We'll just highlight some of these. Judson Pinson says, my chickens are doing well. That's not nothing. It's not nothing. Give it up. And Andrew Joyner says, I'm grateful for my recent pay raise, that my car hasn't broken down recently. Jesus, Krishna, and Keri's numerous hats. If I think of anything else, that's a great list.
Oh my God! By the way, Keri, I was just on Megan Fox's stream, and she was showing me photos that came out from the new season of And Just Like That, the Sex and the City reboot. They are total. She looks like discount Keri. Like she's totally stealing all your hats and your like. It looks like they just like saw a picture of you and are trying to be.
Whose character?
Sarah Jessica Parker.
Oh, well, I'm all in favor of more people wearing hats. Are they good hats?
No, but it looks like your exact outfits. It just like she doesn't rock it like you do. There's one Keri.
No imitations, please. No, I'm good. It is. It's. I'm.
Try to find the pictures.
It still surprises me every once in a while when people online will remark on the fact that I wear a lot of hats, because where I'm at in Texas is everybody wears a lot of hats. I mean, especially out in hill country. I mean, that's all you see. It's like, it's not that weird. This style is weird for a woman. This is this was my my husband's father's hat. I think somebody called this a baker's hat, but this one's really special to me because Anthony gave me this one of his dad's, and it's a little different than the flat cap that pirate gave me.
Oh my God, Chris in the chat.
What? How will
something happen?
Oh, you did another impersonation video, didn't you?
I did, and I had the bright idea. So one of them was one of the transes, and I had the bright idea of drawing with red eyeliner the scars. Forgetting that when I put that red eyeliner on my face, it never comes off. I have tried everything, and like
it's still there.
You did I think this is like karma. This is karma. This is a sign from God that he's like, you want to make fun of people? You're stuck with them forever now, bitch.
So for anybody who's just listening and can't see this, what he's talking about is in a video he did, he drew on the mastectomy scars that people have after a mastectomy, and it's still there.
They will not come off. I'm gonna go after this. I was like scrubbing in the shop. I'm gonna go and get like the strongest makeup remover I can find.
Lemon extract.
Lemon extract. Okay, I'm gonna try that.
Lemon extract. There you go.
It feels like such karma.
The Peaceful Penguin says, thank you all for being here. I feel the same. Thank you guys for hanging out. It's going to be a great week. It's Thanksgiving week. Lissa K says, having strong men around enables women to be strong. I absolutely agree. And you know what else it does, Lissa? I think having strong men around not only enables women to be strong, but keeps women from getting out of balance. like a lot of what we see going on now with woke ideology taking over schools and politics and churches and stuff. I think a lot of that has to do with men having been so emasculated that they're not leading their wives. They're letting the wives lead them. They're not being strong. They're letting, and you have to have that balance between the two. That's probably going to get me in trouble for saying that, but men.
It's the truth. Also, hey, Lissa. I love her.
Hi, Lissa. We got to meet Lissa in Orlando at the Geeks and Gamers Friday Night Tights meetup. Alan Scott says, I hear Tiger has been insufferable since the video. He has.
Went to his head.
He came to Anthony's recent show at the Ridgely Theater in Fort Worth. Tiger did, and requested only green M&Ms in the dressing room. He's a little diva. Yeah. Okay, so I think let's wrap it up. I'm happy I got to see you today.
Me too.
We
I
are.
miss you.
I miss you. I have a. Today we're going to. I have to reschedule. I had an interview. Unfortunately, I have to reschedule because my husband has a nursing home show today, and it's a birthday party, and it's this couple that I've met who I really want to be there for it. Um, and anyway, I love when he does. I go with him to some of the nursing home shows because he does all the old standards like 5'2", eyes of blue, like he does everybody like they know all the old songs. They like get really into it, and it's the best. So anyway, I think I'm gonna get to go to that. So, what are you doing today?
Just working on a couple videos I'm gonna film. I'm filming my next Jeffrey Marsh video.
Oh God!
And I also have a YouTube video about Trump running that I'm gonna do, which is gonna get me a lot of shit, but I don't care. Mm-hmm.
Do it. Say what you think. I know what
I've been considering making that video for like a year, and I'm like, I'm just gonna do it because I think it's important to have that perspective out there.
It is, and you shouldn't.
And
be
I'm never
afraid
gonna
of...
do that. I'm never gonna do it again. Like, you know what I mean? I'm never gonna do that again. That I'm gonna be afraid to say something because I don't want people to hate me.
Yes. And you can't do it. We can't do that with the other side, whatever that means. We can't do that with, there are some people, I've seen them come after you for criticizing Trump, even in the slightest way. And you can't, this, you can't let those people push you into silence from speaking whatever your true opinion is. It would be no different than being pushed into silence by the woke. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm doing that. I've just been like looking at everything in Florida lately and talking with Matt about like, I'm working on editing the documentary series I'm going to do. So I'll hopefully have that out like early mid-December.
Awesome. I'm excited for it. I'm excited for watching you get a driver's license.
Oh God. I told my dad, because I was planning out like what we're going to be doing. So I guess for you guys who don't know, so Matt and me and my parents, we're all moving to Florida. We're all going to get apartments in the same building. So I'm doing I have like a fundraiser, and I'm doing a documentary series also. So I was sort of like thinking about like what we're going to be doing and like what each episode would be. So the first one is like everything I filmed until this point. Like I filmed our family discussions, deciding if we're going to do it. I filmed everything because I feel like these are the conversations that a lot of people are having, and I feel like
that's
nobody's
great.
really.
You've already been documenting all of that, talking, and I know that was a big deal for you to convince, to convince your parents to move with you because they're such New Yorkers.
Yeah. But I did though. So episode 2 is gonna be me and Matt going to look at places in Florida. I was telling my dad, I'm like, I guess the episode after that will be me starting driving school. He's like, oh, what's the next one? Me having to bail you out of traffic court?
Yeah.
Like, probably.
That's gonna be so fun.
I just want to be
good
there
luck
so badly.
with all of it. If people want to support your Escape from New York documentary series, where can they do that? Is that on Give Send Go?
Yes, that would be amazing. So it's for my move, the documentary series. I'm also going to build a website to help other people get out of their blue cities, and like basically a whole database of like, do this, don't do this. Here's where you can get good deals on that. Like just everything I learned in this process. So if you guys feel like doing that, that would be amazing. It's givesendgo.com/escape from New York.
Here,
New
I
York
just found
spelled
it.
out.
I just found it
You're the
online. I
best.
put it up. Cool. Okay, Mikey, have a great Thanksgiving. I'm sure I'll talk to you before then. And I'm going to be seeing your friend Peter for Thanksgiving. I just invited a bunch of people over who just moved here, like Peter, and may not have somewhere to go, or like friends. So we're going to have a lot of friends over, and I'll get to see him and some other people. It'll be fun.
He was with me last Thanksgiving, and I miss you both.
Now he'll be at Shea Garcia.
So, that makes me happy. And he's a musician too, so him and Anthony.
Yeah, they'll have a lot to talk about. Pirate, happy Thanksgiving, Pirate. I am grateful for the mods, the volunteers who helped me here. Pirate Tomsky, 2 sisters and some yarn. Cheeky Mare. I'm trying to use everybody's fancy screen name instead of their real name. And of course, for my Wednesday night co-host, Mystery Chris, who's one of my very good friends. Very grateful for him. Thank you guys all. Have a good.
I'm thankful for Pirate Tomsky. He got me. I hope you can hear me okay now because there's like all this construction outside. But he got me this mic, and I love you so much, and I thank you so much. That's amazing.
He's a very generous chap. Yeah.
He is.
Okay, I'm rolling the ad. Here we go.
All right, love you. Go.
Bye.
Thank you to today's sponsor, the Church on the Square of Georgetown, Texas, which happens to be my church. My church is no longer allowed to advertise on Facebook, which is unfortunate because that's how I and a lot of other church members originally found them. They've been told that they violate community standards. There's no details there of what that means, but you guys know the score. Anyway, since they're not allowed to advertise, I'm here to give them a plug. You can find them online at thechurchonthesquare.org. You can also find videos of all the sermons and some other kinds of content on their YouTube page at Church on the Square. You can also join us. If you happen to be in the Georgetown, Texas area, we meet every Sunday at Ken's Guitars, that's Kenz, Ken's Guitars, right on the Georgetown Square. We meet outside, right on the square. Sometimes, if the weather's nice, you might find us there. You might find us outside in front of Ken's. But if you're local, I hope to see you.